In this lesson, we're going to get the sounds ready for the song that we're going to make, and then we'll get into some MIDI basics. All of the sounds that we're going to be using are in the core library in all versions of Live 11. So you can see them in one place. I've added them to my favorites, as briefly discussed in Lesson 6 on the browser. For this lesson, we're going to use a blank new set, and you'll see 2 empty MIDI tracks and 2 empty audio tracks. We're going to need 4 MIDI tracks right now, so let's delete the 2 audio tracks and create 2 more MIDI tracks. Let's set our tempo to 115 here in the upper left. Now use the browser search feature. Click here and then type Borgia Kit for your drums. Here on the left, click on Drums. This category shows us all of the drum kits included with any live packs that you have installed. So let's drag Borgia Kit to the first MIDI track. And now we're going to repeat this for our next 3 sounds. JX chorus bass for our bass, but now you'll click on Sounds and Categories after typing. Sounds shows us all of the presets for each of Live's built-in instruments, but categorized for your convenience so you don't have to look through a bunch of lists to find a specific type of preset. For the chords, we're going to use E Piano Rusty. And for our melody, we're going to use Little Synth Piano. Okay, so we're ready to go. This project is in the folder that you already downloaded and is called Follow Along B, and then that way you can follow along with the rest of this lesson immediately. But when you have time, I do recommend doing these steps for yourself. Now, let's use what we set up to learn about the basics of MIDI clips in Live. But first, what is MIDI? MIDI stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface. It's a protocol that was created by a number of synth makers in the early 80s, so instruments and computers from different companies could communicate musically with each other. The most important thing to know about MIDI right now is that it is just data, it is not audio. MIDI itself is simply a set of instructions on how an instrument should make a sound and how it should react to incoming data. It's really powerful, and it's used to control a lot of different devices in a lot of different ways. But for now, just remember that to hear a sound in Live when using MIDI, you must have a virtual instrument loaded onto a MIDI track that's going to generate the sound. Fortunately, we've done this on our 4 tracks and we're ready to go. Double-click in the empty space of an empty slot to create a new MIDI clip. Then drag the detail view up so we can see more of what's going on down here. Depending on the size of your screen, you might want to hide the I/O, hide the sends, and hide the returns. We can see here what's known as a piano roll, and the name is taken from those old-timey player pianos that use rolls of paper to play songs automatically. Click to the left of the keys and drag up, down, or left, right to scroll and zoom. Notice the numbers next to the letter names. They represent which octave we're looking at, and they show us the full range of a grand piano and then some. C3 is referred to as middle C, as it is found below the treble clef and above the bass clef in sheet music. Here in the upper right, we see a little pencil. This switch toggles draw mode on or off. The shortcut is B. With draw mode on, just single click to create or delete notes. And then we can go to the edge of a note to resize it. To select and move notes, press B to turn off draw mode. So let's click here in empty space to clear out any note selections, such as the last one that we just created. Simply click on a note to drag it where you want. Or draw a box to select multiple notes, and then drag them wherever you want. Or we could use the arrow keys to move selected notes up or down, left or right. And of course, delete will delete them. With draw mode off, you can create and delete notes with a double click. Notice how all of the notes are snapping to a grid. By default, new clips have a 16th note grid, as we can see here in the bottom right. If we want to change the grid setting, you can simply right-click and select a different value. Or from the options menu, we can use narrow or widen grid And you can use Command 1 or Command 2 on a Mac, or of course Control 1 or Control 2 if you're on Windows. Right now, we have a 1-bar loop. We can easily change the length over here on the left by typing in a value. Or we can click on the loop brace and then use some shortcuts. Command up down will double or half the loop, which would be Control up or down on PC. With just up or down, we can move the loop left or right by its length. The left and right arrow keys move it according to the grid setting, which can result in the start marker ending up in a weird location if you're not careful. So make sure to use the up and down arrow keys, not the left and right arrow keys. But you can easily drag the start marker to where you want it, or just type in a value here on the left. And all of these controls related to the loop brace and the playback start are exactly the same in audio clips. To clear out all the notes, select all of them and delete them, and then we can start working on our beat. Command A or Control A on Windows, and then just press delete. To delete the whole clip, select it up here and then press delete. Okay, now we're ready to move on to making a drum beat in the next lesson.